One autumn evening I was returning to the city from my dacha. My dacha is located about 20 kilometers from the city, so it was necessary to go quite decently. It was dark. I turned on the high beam. There were no cars on the road, so I accelerated, maybe a little bit over the speed. When the pale dog jumped out right in front of my car, I didn't have time to slow down. Beat her up. I stopped the car on the road a little further. I couldn't move for a few seconds. I was in shock. For some reason, I was sure that it was a domestic dog, and I would have to tell its owners, who were about to come out of the forest, that I had knocked down their pet. I got out of the car. There was a dent and scuffs on the passenger side. Although the dent was noticeable, I still expected the worst, having drunk the dog at such a speed. Then I had a hope that the dog might be all right. I spotted her a little way down the road and headed towards her. The animal was twitching. The closer I got, the more it seemed to regain consciousness. At first I assumed it was trying to get up, but then I noticed something was wrong. The creature's skin was devoid of fur. Pale, almost gray and translucent, tightly fitting the bones. Besides, this creature was too big for a dog. I didn't see it in the blood. His limbs were disproportionate and very strange, resembling both canine and human. Most of all I remember the knobby fingers with large distances between them. It stood up on its hind legs, in this position resembling not a dog, but a monkey as tall as me, and turned in my direction. When his big black eyes stared at me, I took a few hesitant steps back, then ran. Immediately, the creature rushed at me, and I am sure that if I had not managed to escape from it, its jaws would have closed on my neck. I had never run so fast before, but the creature was not far behind. Finally, I jumped into the car and slammed the door. Then it started pacing right in front of my car, at the very edge of the world. I started the car from the spot, and it violently rushed at the glass on the side. I pushed the gas pedal into the floor and drove away, squeezing everything out of the car. Because of the darkness, I couldn't see if the creature was chasing me or had long been left behind. But up to the city, every minute I cast a nervous glance at the rearview mirror. She woke up at night. My husband was not at home, he went on a business trip, the children were sleeping in another room. She was lying on the bed and couldn't understand why she woke up. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. She got up and went to the kitchen. After pouring a glass of water, she sat down on a comfortable chair and opened the window. And it became cold and dreary. Because of the sadness of her thoughts, at first she did not hear the melody coming from the street, but the melody was approaching and was very close. It seemed that now she would fly into the open window. The girl understood that this melody, in principle, should not be. It's night outside, everyone is asleep. No one can enter the courtyard, as the house is protected by a large fence and the gates are closed. The girl got up, went into the nursery to check if everything was all right with her children, and went to the exit fascinated by the melody. She threw a blanket over herself and was about to open the door when she decided to look out the window after all. At the same moment she screamed in horror. Her son was standing on the street. He was all in white clothes, but they were dirty and stained with bloodstains. The child stood and looked out the window. In his hands he held a music box that produced this melody. The girl understood that this was not her son, because a minute ago he was sleeping peacefully in his crib. A shiver ran through my body. She grabbed the handle of the front door harder and automatically pulled it towards her. The fear increased. She checked the lock and slid down on her haunches, and then sat down on the floor altogether. She was afraid to move. She couldn't go into the room because she was afraid that it would see her in the window. The music was approaching her, and she could already hear it near the front door. There was a knock. My heart started pounding wildly. Fear paralyzed her entire body, she couldn't even move. The second, third, fourth knock on the door. Then this creature began to knock and scream furiously. "Mommy, open up, I'll freeze. Let me go home. Mommy." The voice was at first childish, turned into a rough male scary. The creature was banging, screaming, and the music was playing non-stop. The girl at one moment thought that she was going to go crazy, abruptly got up and ran into the room, making sure that the children were still sleeping peacefully. She sat down on the floor near her son's crib, wrapped a blanket around her and waited. I don't know what, just wait. The knocking and cursing continued for some time, and then everything went quiet. She understood that if she had not looked out of the window and gone out into the yard, something irreparable could have happened. She could not fall asleep, and the next morning, with a remnant of fear, she opened the front door and realized that it was not a terrible nightmare, since the whole door was disfigured and crumpled from strong blows. This story happened when I was 12 years old. My parents divorced and actually abandoned me, so I live with my grandmother. We lived quite calmly and in prosperity, but one day a tragedy occurred. Grandma Katia stepped on the needle. She had to quit her job and stay in the hospital. Leaving for 3 days, she instructed me not to start the music box in any case, and I had no desire at all. The box was too unattractive. There was something sitting on it that I don't know, something scary and covered with ash or resin, and the box itself was dirty red and very shabby. She left in Akata, and I was left alone. One is scared, and I called my classmates for a sleepover. After changing into pajamas and making popcorn, everyone except me sat on the bed. Then our hyperactive girl saw that box. Unable to resist, she grabbed it and started it. She started listening to the melody, and she felt sick. The sound of the box resembled a child's lullaby, only distorted. I ran into the room and, having run into her, ordered her to return to her place. The box fell silent with a plaintive screech, and my friend immediately obeyed my request. Having calmed down, we started watching horror movies. We shivered and chattered for a long time, when suddenly something fell in the kitchen, and the girls ran in. I started laughing at them and said that I just put the plate badly. We went to the kitchen, but the plate I had left on the edge of the table was standing calmly. It wasn't even a plate that fell, but a mug that was standing, pressed against the window, on the windowsill. The girls panicked, and I just froze. After about a minute, I noticed a strange footprint on the parquet. The girls have already run away. Who is where, who is in the closet, who is in the toilet, and who is in the bath? I don't remember who ran away where. Going to the toilet room, turned on the light. At first, a friend just shouted hey. And then a long, terrifying and heartrending scream hastened. I immediately turned on the light, tried to hide the door, but when I opened it, it was too late. I saw her lying with her back to me, and when I turned around, I almost screamed myself. Her face was twisted and she wasn't breathing. I was terrified. It was only after about 5 minutes that I realized that I couldn't hear the others either. I've been looking for them everywhere. They were nowhere to be found. The oven started working here, although it was always unplugged. I opened it and ran into the room. I was crying a lot, as something that I couldn't see because of the darkness whispered 3 words in my ear. You'll understand everything, don't tell anyone. And one remained alive. I'm scared. My neighbor is now yelling at me incessantly. Maybe I should bury her head where I buried her body,